Well, thank you guys for coming tonight, for taking time out of your day. We're very excited for you to be here. As I said before, today was going to be the day of the exhibition in Friedrichshain in the gallery, and we're definitely going to still do that. But we just wanted to actually have something going on today. Yeah, like Matilda said, Lawrence, me and her are part of this group of 6, and we just are there because we wanted to share art from full-time and part-time artists. Yeah, because we just thought we had so many people around us that were creating art in Corona, and we just thought, wow, so bad that no one can see this. So yeah. Yeah, so we just want to have this discussion with all of you who probably do not know each other yet, but you're all connected through art. So I think we all have something in common here. Yeah, for the discussion, kind of a little overview, it's probably going to be around 1.5 hours, just, just so you guys know, it's not going to go on forever. Yeah, so first we thought maybe you could just introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about you and your art, or anything else you want to tell us about yourself. If you want to, you can share your screen if you want to show a piece of art, but you don't have to. Yeah, and then we just kind of thought about 3 themes we kind of wanted to talk about: expression and also expression and understanding your art, the importance of art, and isolation. And I'm going to pose some questions. You guys can just answer the question or pose a different question if you come up with something that actually you really want to talk about. Yeah, and then people from YouTube can comment, and I'll read the questions or comments. Yeah, and then at the end we can have a general open discussion, or if there's anything else you want to add. And that's kind of the structure for tonight. So maybe if somebody wants to start just introducing themselves, that would be great.
Well, I can go if nobody's
Great.
starting. So I'm from India, but I currently live in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. I've been here for a bit more than 3 years. I came here to study. Professionally, I'm an architect. I did a bachelor in architecture. I've worked as an architect, and I did a master here as well, also related to architecture. But I got into architecture because I like to draw. I've been drawing since I was very young, but I was told as a kid that you cannot make any money with art. So I was convinced to take a slightly more lucrative career path, I guess. But I continue to draw for myself and for the people around me. My idea of I don't know, giving a present to somebody for their birthday always involved like making something, and not really buying something. But I don't know. So I guess, yeah, I don't know. I mostly just draw for myself and like the people I know, and I don't imagine turning it into a career or anything. So it's quite an informal involvement with art. I'm done.
Thanks.
So, okay, I'm next. I'm Nora. I came from Germany, Berlin. I lived here my whole life. And yeah, from beginning, when I was really small, I started to draw and to get in my own inspiration world. So I get I get into my own world. And for me, is art a kind to express myself. But I have a problem to say that I'm an artist. And yeah, I say I like it to make creative stuff, and I like it to the process to be creative, to change it with other people. Yeah, with the end product, in the most times I'm a little bit shy and I want to hide it. Yes, it's from me. So, next.
So hi everyone, can you hear me? Okay, I'm Karen. I come from Colombia and I've been living in Germany since 2009. Similar as Suyan. In Colombia, my parents they said, okay, I always wanted to study arts, but at the end I began to study advertising and design and worked in a university here in Germany on connecting both countries, Colombia and Germany. Then I decided to go for arts. At the beginning, I would draw and paint a lot with acrylics and oils. And in Corona, last year, I joined an atelier in Hanover, and it was a beautiful opportunity for me to meet another artists from around the world. And it was a chance to go inside. So I moved from doing figurative art to abstract art. Yeah, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now you can hear me. Oh no, Philippa, you started, right?
Oh no, sorry.
No, you go on.
Yeah, okay. Perfect. I'm Filipa. I'm from Portugal. Professionally, I studied engineering and worked in the area, but then I hated it. So I went and worked in a restaurant, cooking, and it was very nice. I liked it, but now currently I'm studying management. But yes, drawing always made part of my life. I love it. My style is a little bit more realistic. I don't do a lot of abstract, but yes, it's also like my own world, and as Karen said, but I think it always also calms me down when I'm very like stressed and anxious. I start painting, and I think it's also why my style is so realistic. It has a lot of control, and I like it. I think that we always see art like freedom and free, but it also can help us calm us down and have a lot of control and structure. Yeah.
Thank you. Shall I continue? Okay. Hi, I'm Lotta. I grew up and I live in Berlin. And I'm studying literature, like comparative literature. And I'm also part of a curatorial collective. It's a student-run project space. And we are organizing and realizing art events or exhibitions like one or twice a year. And I could share my screen to show you a project we did over the summer during the pandemic, because we actually planned an exhibition for June, or I think July, which was then not possible. So we started another project, which was kind of had the idea to create a virtual archive or a project space which would grow organically over the next few months. And yes, so I'm sharing my screen, and this is the landing page. The project was called Continuum, something between archive and project space. The project or the collective is called Kleine Humboldt Galerie, and it lasted for 5 months. We approached a few artists and collectors or writers, but we also had 2 open calls because we as a collective group wanted to be really not too prominent. We wanted to create a space where people could show their work or their coping with this whole situation. Yes, I can also, I think that's enough for now. I could show you again the different month. There you have it. Those are like all artworks, performances, contributions at one chronological. Yeah, I can send the link again in the chat if you want to.
Yeah, I think that'd be great, and maybe Lawrence could share it on YouTube too, if that's okay. Share the link.
Yes, I'd love to. And beside that, I mean, I always sketched and I did a lot of photographs. And I did it the most when I was traveling. That was kind of always really interesting because my desire and my urge to document my daily life or what I saw by sketching it or by photographing it was immensely when I wasn't at home. And that kind of wasn't really able this year, so I did kind of nothing at all. But it's so interesting for me that
Should we wait a little bit? I guess we can wait a little bit, and if she doesn't,
I can't hear her. I can't hear her anymore.
Okay.
Maybe somebody has to invite her new.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Lawrence will do that. So I guess she can keep introducing herself as when she comes back. I also want to say hi, Chrissy. I think you just joined our conversation. Can you hear me? No? Okay. I guess maybe then, Wolfgang, do you want to keep going, introducing yourself?
Yeah, I continue. Okay. Yeah, I'm Wolfgang. I live in Berlin, but raised in Leipzig. So I'm in Berlin for a year now. Most of the time I experienced Berlin with Corona right now. And I study philosophy, not art. And always try to combine it in a way. I like to do very different kinds of art, like music, drawing, photography, literature. All these forms are capable to express different ideas, actually. So, and I like to combine it with philosophical ideas and also philosophical impulses that aren't. It's easier to depict something in the form of art than in the form of philosophy, in a way. So, I try to do that. Try to do this. Yeah. Like recently I draw more than do other things, and it's also very realistic. I like to draw with ballpoint pen. So it gets a photographic style in a way. It's more realistic than when you draw with pencils. And I really love this effect in a time where everything gets more abstract and confusing. Then you take your time to depict something in a more realistic way. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for introducing yourself. I think Esme, you can also go.
Sure. I'm from America. I live in Berlin now. I study, or I'm almost finished studying, art history and art theory, just a BA. And I really like to make sculptures. Recently, I've been sort of toying with making reliefs. I've been doing a lot in soap, just it started during the first lockdown, just as something, I guess just mostly as a hobby, but I've continued with it because I find it very fun. And I like that it's sort of takes a lot of time to produce, but it's impermanent fundamentally. I mean, everything is. So, I mean, all art is not really, even if it's archival, it will like eventually deteriorate. But something about it being very temporary and fragile is sort of satisfying, and also kind of takes the pressure off a little bit.
Thanks for sharing. Chrissy, can you hear me now? Or okay. Oh yeah.
I was invited by Chrissy actually. Maybe
but you're not her.
So maybe
okay.
Magdalena.
I'm sorry, Magdalena.
I'm fine. Yeah. I'm working with arts for a long time, coming from the photojournalism, but now I mainly work with performance art and also other forms of art, like exploring collage and again painting. And yeah, this year for me was quite interesting. A lot of introspection and exploring new fields, because the live performance was not really possible, because it's important to have the public. It's an interaction. It's not the same to do it online. So I'm really looking forward to can work again. But it was a process, and especially the topics you mentioned, we will talk about here. That's what I'm working on in this moment, because I'm very interested in the human condition, which has changed for all the people around the world. We're all affected by this. So yes, I'm working on those topics.
Great. Thanks so much, Magdalena. I think you guys all already naturally kind of came into the question of expression and people maybe understanding your art or even seeing your art, and this interaction between the viewer and the art itself. And so we had a question, but I don't know if it's so relevant now. Is it important for you that people understand your art? I think some people have already mentioned that you work very realistic and very like controlled. I think Philippa said that she likes the control. Is it important for you that the people that see your art understand this like very directly? Or maybe for someone like Karen who works very abstract, do you still feel like you have a direct emotion maybe, or something that you want to come across? Or is it more like, Nora, I think you mentioned this idea of it's your own world, and is that even an important view, maybe or maybe an important part of your art, even the viewer? Or like, do you understand, like, what's the expression that you want to come across? If it's just for you, is it for other people? Yeah.
For me, actually, in this year, I went very I call them the 3 rooms of the being. 3 rooms of the being. So I create like some kind of theory how I understand the world and how I understand the world, how I see it, how I move in this society, and the abstract or how I paint or the things I draw are actually how can I say that? It's a way to communicate. It's a way to bring it out from myself. And at the first time, it's not that important, the viewer, if they just see some forms or things like that. For me, it's important that, because it doesn't happen in a planned way. I pick the colors, I have this move, I have this concept, what I'm working on, and it just happens. And sometimes even 1 week after or a time after, I would realize what I was drawing, but it's something very personal. So in some kind is, it's a language I'm constructing, I'm trying to elaborate. And at the first time is only to get it out for me. And I had the opportunity to do an exhibition in Cinova. It's called Cinova. It's like an open doors atelier exhibition in Hanover. And I had the opportunity to explain my art and some of the pieces, and some people would be interested on this theory and would make questions, and we could discuss about that. And it's very interesting. But the most important thing for me is really to give place, to give birth these ideas and these concepts, and try to translate them to this dimension somehow. Yeah.
For me, I guess that there's something very personal, how you interpret, or how an art piece can touch you, because maybe there can be an intention to speak to the public, because I have it in my mind, especially with the performance pieces I do live, and the public has a certain role which is more or less important. But I'm very aware of that. I cannot, and I don't want to control, because I address the feeling and the heart. I mentioned that I come from photojournalism, which is pure head. You go and document the reality, and you want to show that very precisely. And then I turned to performance art, because I felt that those very important issues, and sometimes really horrible things, they're not perceived on a human level so much, but more on a level of mind, far away. And with the performance and also other art pieces, they can touch you more in the heart, at my opinion. And that is what I like to do with my work, to address the feeling and the heart, to make the people feel. And so I cannot really decide. I cannot really have a power, control over them, because it depends on their own experiences and history and story. And I feel this is a very powerful thing to give some image, and then you see what happens. So I feel the total control is not there, because they never can feel what you feel when you do your art.
I just wanted to say that I think that Karen's perspective it's very interesting for me because like I said, I like the control when I paint, but it's very difficult for me to do abstract things, I think, because of that. But it's very interesting, and it inspires me because like the flow, the energy, and everything that comes from not planning, it's very interesting, I think. And also Magdalena said about control. When I speak about control in the art, it's not like that I want to control what people think or feel about my art, but when I think about doing art, I don't think I plan. I like to plan and to structure. Perhaps the word control is not very good, but structure. I like when it has some structure. It gives me it calms me down. It's like therapy for me. But I think it's very interesting also to let go and perhaps experience some more abstract art.
I'm gonna speak. I feel quite the opposite, actually, to what Felipa just explained, because when I draw, I mean, my art, I forgot to explain, it is more abstract than realistic. There was a phase, I don't know, many years ago when I would try to draw things more realistically, but I don't know, in the last few years, every time I sit down to draw something, if I plan what to draw, I never follow the plan. And a few minutes into the drawing, I don't know, I almost stop thinking, and you know, the hand just takes over, and you create what your hand wants to create. I don't know. And I think this is for me, the person that I am when I draw is very different from the person that I am when I'm doing other things, like I don't know, with work or with things to be done in the house or something. I'm extremely, like, very easily rational and logical, and I know I'm very good at, like, planning and organizing things, but then when it comes to drawing, I don't want to do any of those things. So it's like a nice outlet for another version of me to come out. And to answer your question about whether it's important for other people to understand one's art, I don't know. I haven't thought of that a lot, because, like I said, I've only created art for myself and for the people around me, but not necessarily to convey, like, a very specific idea to them. So I actually feel that there is so much satisfaction to be got from art before you even start thinking of other people. That I don't know. I don't know. I think that thinking about that can change art for a person a lot, you know, because there is so much satisfaction to be got just from the act of making something, the act of putting down a pen or a pencil on paper, and there's just so much before even the external world kind of starts to get involved. So yeah.
So when I started with art, I was really small. I remember my first art pick when I was 4 years, 4 years, and I make a tipi. It was a collage. And when I remember this feeling, it was, I was really peaceful. And I would say, like Felipa, it was a kind of therapy. It was only the nice can hear me?
Yeah, maybe you can repeat the last sentence. Yeah. You were cut off. I think you're cut off again. Technology.
So, but you can hear me? Huh?
Now.
No.
Yeah, now.
Now.
So yes.
So the first point, it was for me as a child. So you must know, I have heard my ears was broke when I was small. I can hear much, so I lived more than others in my own little world. So on this point, it was really important for me to see the world, to go to go to in contact with others with my own language. But I was really interesting when I go to my teenage years, when somebody see some art pics or read texts of me, what happened with them, and I get views from other thinking and other worlds, and this was really overfloating and really interesting. So I don't really can say, the first point I make it for me, but what happened and what grows when it came in contact with other people is really, I don't can find words for it. And I would say it's almost my first language in this world. Art is, okay.
Yeah, maybe I do next. Actually, I try to avoid to think about what others might think of it, at least during the process of doing it. I mean, in the end, I'm very interested when whether people like it or not, actually. So, but when I plan something new or have an idea or something, I try to keep it clean of the opinions of others, clean of also money interests or something. I don't want to think about, is it sellable or something. So it's tough actually to ignore the external world during the process, but I try it because I hope that makes it more authentic in a way. Also, like authentic in a way that's therapeutic. Because when I say I do realistic stuff, there's always space for the unconscious. So I try to do it realistic, and then I notice after a while, wait, there came something new in it, something I didn't plan, something from the unconscious of my mind. So I'm getting the spectator of my own unconscious in a way. So and then afterwards, it's of course cool when people like it. It's nice when they notice something I don't notice, especially when people I know and they know me. They say, "Hey, look at this," and they recognize me or in that way. That's super interesting. I love this. So. Yeah, but there is two layers. So in the first step, I don't care what others think, and in the second, I really care actually.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting what you guys have said. Kind of, I don't know. I also really like, Wolfgang, what you said with the the person's kind of watching, like you seeing yourself in it, your unconsciousness in it. And also maybe, it is a language, right? It does connect us, which also I think kind of goes into the next topic of the importance of art, because I think expression and, like Nora said, language, or, just sharing yourself that much, or just your ideas with the world, I think it's very important. I think, you could really say art is very important. I think it's also interesting because sometimes I study engineering, and I think a lot of people are always like, oh, you're doing, a real job, or, you're doing something important. And I always think it's so odd because to me, art is something that really nourishes the soul, and also kind of, it's so human, right? I think everyone, maybe even if don't have this great passion or this great talent, or really embrace themselves in art, I think everyone has sung in their life or danced or interacted with art, and it's always there. And I think also during Corona, I think people have started to maybe listen to more music, or also create something, bake or cook, or also watch so many shows. But what do you think, if there was no art, or if there was no way to express that, how would your life look like if you didn't have time for art, or didn't have the possibility? Or which role does art play in your life? I think we also kind of already touched that a little bit with the first language, but I think if you guys have any comments on kind of this theme, how it is important to you, or you can share, or if there's other questions that came to you. Okay, maybe
I think
not.
that art is nowadays so separated from life, but if you see, it has always been part of this humanity, and I think it was much more part of life. And through art, we learn also about ourselves. There are pieces which are 40,000 years old, even in our earth here, a little bit in comparison with other cultures like Karen's home or Zuliana's home. But still, there is something, and they speak, you mentioned it, they nourish the soul. They speak what we cannot articulate, maybe. And I think it's exactly this connection to the soul, to the to what is beyond the form, brought into a form. So there's a lot of potential. And to me personally, art is part of my life, definitely. It's also what keeps me going in this year more than ever. It's healing, and and I hope it can come back to be more than a product. And nowadays, this art market sometimes overshadows. So we talk about successful artists, those who sell the most expensive works. And I think the critical is, what is the intention? So, and especially in this Western society where I was growing up here in Germany, where we forget about our souls, I feel that art can be a wonderful bridge to come back to the real important things of life. And it can be directly or not directly, but it touches something. And it's also a kind of a messenger. If you go, for example, to Egypt and see the walls, you don't need to really understand the hieroglyphs. You would capture some information, and that's powerful. And I think it's also very revolutionary and really changing the course of life many times, art. So it's powerful, I would say.
I kind of also thought now, Esma already mentioned in the beginning, I think she said she really likes the impermanency. And I think Magdalena, you now touched on this idea of something being there. And that way always interacting. But you said before that you also do a lot of performances. And I mean, those are experience, right? They can change you, but they are just kind of in the memories of some people. So maybe, how does permanency in art, is that important to you? Or kind of this idea, is the end product the art, the finished piece? Or maybe the process itself, and then what happens when there is no viewer? Because I think you said that, Magdalena, right? How do you now deal with this? Because you need viewers for performance art, right? How does that change now?
So yeah, both. On the one hand, I really admire and I feel it's important those pieces which are still there, the ones I mentioned, because it gives me a lot of peace to know that this is an ancient thing. On the other hand, I think performance might be even the oldest art form of it all, because it's the first thing we have our body to interact. And I assume those rituals, which still are there, it's just here in this so-called Western society that is so separated. But it cannot be a ceremony, which is a kind of artistic thing, a ritual. And nowadays, performance for me is interesting because of its impermanence, because it's not really a thing you can sell. So I find this very interesting. But I also enjoy to do some more material things, something that will remain. But I'm aware that it will not be something, even if I paint, I don't think it's gonna be there in 5,000 years. But nowadays that we have so much stuff, everything is like too much material, I also enjoy this non-material thing. So it's a bit juggling both of it. But I think performance persists in its discipline itself, that we go, and now people would say, oh, performance art was born in the 70s, which I don't think so, because if you see, again, for example, Egypt, you see those pictures, that was kind of a performative, ritualistic way to do things. And I think both have their roles, and both is important and can be even combined. And also performance is in the process. If you create a painting or a sculpture, it's the intention, the whole process is a kind of, is part of this artwork. It's not only the end product.
Esme, you said before with your soap, maybe do you want to comment on that, or because I think you, or
I said before what I what? Sorry, I didn't.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I just thought of what you said in the beginning with the whole, you say that you like that it takes the time to make your release, but then in the end you also said they're not permanent. So I just kind of think it connected to this idea, because I feel like in a way maybe that's also very performative, like Magdalena said, the sculpture or the act of the creation. And is it that important for you? Like what part is important to you in the process, that it takes the time, or that you?
I guess, I mean, I liked what, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your name. I think it was Wolfgang, about how now we live in a time where there is this like surgence of, I mean, I guess there's always this sort of volleying between formalism and non-formalism and realism and like abstract work, but somehow, I guess, not that anything I make is like classical by any means, but I sort of like at least echoing sort of the process of like a classical work of art in that way. I like the idea of this very like old school, like romantic toiling that goes into something that seems nice to me. But also, I don't know, it's different because I don't like, I carve soap and I give it to my friends, but I don't think of these as like works of art or anything. So I sort of also like that. It's not treated as a work of art. Like some friends use it as soap and some friends put it on a wall, and then I don't know, everyone does something different with it. So I think that that's also nice, that there aren't the same sort of codes of conduct as there would be if you give someone like a painting, something that's very like established in its role and within like a, I don't know, even if it's not something that would be canonized, it still has this definite traditional treatment, I guess. But I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question at all. I do like that there's a lot of work put into something and that it could disappear just as a gesture. But I don't know if that's necessarily connected to art or if it's just something I consider sort of a romantic idea.
No, I think that answers it. Yeah. We also got a comment or a question, and I think let me pull it up. Maybe I think some of you have mentioned this already. The question was, hey guys, I have a question. I was wondering if and how your style of art changed during times of isolation and Corona. So, I mean, soap's very appropriate for Corona. Yeah, I think Wolfgang, you already said you just went more into realism, or yeah.
So
your turn.
it's yeah, the biggest change by me was the material. So this year or the last year, I started to work with wood or ton. What is this in English? With ceramic and pearls and a lot of different stuff. So the haptic of the art was changing the last year by me. So Wolfgang?
From my perspective, that nothing changed actually. More maybe because at the moment I don't do a lot. I'm totally bored. Maybe that's what's changing, that I change in inspiration. So I hope that will change after the Corona lockdowns and stuff. So so it affects my inspiration. I don't know, it's a little bit sad. But for this project here, for the Corona project, it's about it. I had a totally new idea with Mathilde that came out of boredom, actually, because I was at my flat and I came totally spontaneous to the idea to freeze water in a balloon, to freeze it. And then you got this big ice egg, and I just wanted to see how it looks when it's deeply frozen, and it looks super beautiful. And there's nothing special about it. It's just a big ice egg. So, and it's nothing to do with drawing, nothing to do with photography or any. It's just aesthetic in a way, and I like to have it in my hands. It's cold, and then it melts after a while, and I put them in my garden, and they lay down, and different shapes, different sizes, and that's so yeah, that it's a super simple point, but it's like an initial idea of inspiration or beauty in something, and then do it and see it, or in a way. Yeah, but I never had the idea to put it on any to bring it to the public. It was just for me. It was just I want to see it, how it looks, and that's it. And then Mathilde came with this idea to me, and then we combined it in a way. Maybe we will put it there. So that's actually a completely new form of inspiration for me, and it's changed the way I do art normally, because it's something new to me. Yes.
for me, art was very important during this time, because when the quarantine came, I was working at a restaurant, and then we all got fired, so I had nothing to do. I had a lot of time, and for that, yes, I began painting a lot, drawing a lot more, and also experimenting some other kinds of art, like ceramic also. And yes, it was very interesting. And I just wanted to say something about what Uta said, about being her first language, art being her first language. I think for me, it's not a language, like I don't use art to communicate to others, but a lot to communicate with myself. It's very strange, but it's really like some therapy. And also, as Wolfgang said, I can see myself doing it. And at the end, I'm like, whoa, I did this, and I understand me better after painting. Yes, it's curious.
I actually wanted to say two things about the importance of art. Yeah, the previous question. I think, I'm thinking about the importance of art for people as a group, not for myself as an individual. So I think one of the things that sets humans apart, or one of the things that makes us a unique species, is that we really like stories. However far back in time we go, stories have existed in mankind. We love telling stories, we love hearing stories, and a lot of the things that we believe today are actually based on stories. If you think of religion or power or money or, I don't know, politics, all these things, these are all ideas that have been created by us. It's a bit hard to believe, because it's a bit hard to believe that these are just based on stories, because our lives are centered around these ideas now. But these are stories, and I think art also tries to tell a story. And another thing about art, just like music, is that I don't know, I almost feel like you can't actually explain in words the effect that art has on people, or why it provokes emotion in a certain way. Like, you don't need to speak any specific language, you don't need to be educated in any way to perceive art. And it's the same with music as well. You feel emotions the moment you start perceiving it, and which makes things like art and music, and also maybe poetry and things, just it's very hard to explain really the role of art. But then we all know that these media are important. And art is a bit different from, let's say, literature, I don't know, writing or speaking, because the moment you start to express something in words, I don't know, I feel like a lot, I mean, of course, you can explain more accurately, but you also end up losing a lot of the things you want to express. And I think things like art and music sort of convey your thoughts in a more holistic way than words ever will. And the second thing I wanted to say about art is, if you think of, if you think of the pyramid of needs of people, like at the bottom of the pyramid are all these practical needs, like food, water, I don't know, safety, security, all these things. And as we go higher and higher up the pyramid, we get things like, I don't know, self-actualization and these less physically tangible needs. And I think it's I mean, think of when you actually sit and create art. When do people make art? When they don't have to worry about eating or about fulfilling these more basic needs. That's when you go and create art, because and we do this to try and to get something that these more basic needs cannot give us. So. So I don't know. I almost feel like through art, we're trying to reach. I don't know, but we are trying to understand something about ourselves that no other activity can teach us in a way. And I do think that it's an activity that we should continue doing and continue doing together, actually. And I don't know. I have no answer for. I don't know what would come out of it. It's just, I think we know that it is something that should be pursued and not pushed aside as a useless activity. Yeah.
Hi. About first of all, thank you for. I think every one of you, it's so inspirational what you say. I'm learning a lot on this conversation. About how Corona changed my art, I guess it merged my worlds. I've been doing a lot of my spirituality grew. I'm doing a lot of meditation, and I've been doing rituals, and I love to go to the nature. We have a dog, and we live near the woods, and somehow my whole world's like being in the nature and doing things about meditation, trying to merge this world with the art. It combined in the pieces. So I used to write, or I write every day. Some back in the times I would write poetry, things like that. And now my pieces have changed. So I draw things, and things that I write are in the same time there. And one thing I tried this in a few months ago, which was new. We did like an excursion with a very old man who knows every kind of mushrooms in the wood. And there is this mushroom was used in the Middle Age to make ink. It's called Tintlinge in German. And I made my own ink and do drawings with this mushroom ink. And it's very funny because this ink, when you write, it's very dark. And after a few minutes, it disappears. So this non-permanent thing about writing a feeling, writing something that is very important for me right now, or doing a drawing and then it disappears, it's like, yeah, it's like, it's a nice experience. So yeah, it changed a lot. So it's the worlds are merging. Corona gave me that opportunity. And yeah, arts is for me healing, it's for me therapeutical, it's for me creation, it's for me the opportunity to connect with myself and connect with others. I couldn't imagine ourselves, the human beings. I think that everybody is creating always something, and it's in our nature. So we are creative people. Even though if you are engineer or whatever, you are always creating something new, and this power of manifestation from something it is in your head, and then it's done. So it's our, yeah, it's something that is in us. Yeah, and I couldn't imagine not making art. So yeah, I'm happy that I quit my job and I'm doing art right now. So
does anyone else want to share on the question how you are changed, or I could ask a different question too. I guess, yeah, I'll just ask a different question. We also thought about how quarantine affects the way you deal with emotions. Like, did it have an impact on your or on everyone's mental health? Like maybe other people around you, and that affected you as well? Did you notice that? And yeah. Or if that's personal, obviously you don't have to answer that, but we just thought like maybe from this headspace you then also create different art, or okay, well,
sorry.
Oh, yeah. No,
I just wanted to say, for me in Portugal, I don't know if it was also like that in Germany, but we had 1 month where we stayed at home and we couldn't get out for a whole month. And yes, I was with my sister at home, and it was very difficult because we really like each other, but it's like a month without anyone else. And yes, it was very stressful. And for me, I would paint every day because of that being like my own space, and she could be there, and the energy wouldn't affect me because I was doing my thing. It really helped me dealing with that.
Yes, I don't know how people do who don't have this artistic relationship, because similar for me, it was really, really important. And I see that it's really heavy for the people around, and that makes me think a lot, because it's not only the elderly people who don't have family who really suffer, like my neighbor or people really close, but it's also really many young people who I see who or cannot do what they used to do, or cannot see their friends, or I see a lot of change. And that, to me, the way to deal with it is through my art. So work on this topic and see how I can take it out, because I think there's a lot going on, and maybe we see the consequences not right now, but even after. And I think it's also important to talk about it, because yeah, people don't really think about it so much. They think on the physical level, but the psychological level, in my opinion, is not enough talked about.
I think it connects so much to what you said, Sujana, with the whole like the hierarchy of our needs and where does art fall on that. Because I think it's very interesting that you guys have said that if for you it's been very helpful, and maybe people don't realize that they have this need.
But if you look at the children, for example, they all draw and paint, and especially before going to school. I see my little niece, for example, she's so skilled, and now she goes to kindergarten, and it changes so much, because now she want to do the perfect tree. And before, for me, it was much more creative. I could just put this stuff in in a show, and people would admire it, because she has this, not to think and just to do. And then society shapes those little artists. So I think it's a very basic need. And I do understand this with the pyramid, but yes and no, because also there's people who don't have so much luxury as we have here, or wealth, and they do great pieces of art. So I think it also is not only for the elites, the art, not at all. I assume Sometimes even what I experienced when I was traveling and living in other continents, sometimes you have less and you're more creative than having all the tools and then thinking, oh, which camera do I want? Okay, this camera, then what can I do with it? Or the other way around, I have an idea and try to express it. So yes and no, in my opinion.
Yeah. Sorry. No, you can speak.
Thank you. I also had to think about an experience I had. I was for a while in Kenya and had the opportunity to live with the Masai Maras for a month. And it was a very small village, and I was within one, like some kind of a house, and with the woman, and all night they will gather together. Outside there's nothing, there's no electricity, there's no water, there's nothing. So they just look at the stars and they would sing together, do fire, and then the women, they would make these beautiful pearls, things, colors, things like for jewelry, and they do not have things that would say for this pyramid, for Maslow pyramid, but this potential for creation and for beauty, it was so overwhelming. So, and they didn't have, and I would, the more I was there, the more it would be more contagious for me to create more art. So, yeah.
What I wanted to say is I interpret this Maslow's pyramid a little bit different. Like we don't have to have the basic needs for having then the creation and art. It's simple that if we have the basic needs, it doesn't. It no longer motivates us, and we have to go to the other level. And one of the up levels are art and satisfaction and self-realization and so on. But of course, we could have some up levels before we have the basic needs fulfilled. It's like I understand it, interpret it, yes.
I think maybe that makes us rethink what art really is. I mean, if as we all know, like no matter how much each of our needs is fulfilled, people all over the world are and have been making art. That means that the normalized idea of art maybe needs to change. Maybe when you talk about art to, I don't know, the average person living in a city, they immediately think of art that has been formalized and maybe exhibited and shown and kind of performed. But I actually think that art is so much more than that. And when you talk about art for yourself, for example, it has nothing to do with what you show to the world outside or what you're trying to express to them or whether you're trying to make a career out of it. I think there is art even in the way you arrange your desk on a normal day, or there is art in cooking, for example. There is art in all of these things, and I think we do like to have visual aesthetics around us. We want our surroundings to be aesthetically pleasing. I mean, this is, of course, it's up to each of our preference what we think good aesthetics is. But I think nobody likes to sit in a room that they don't find pleasant or pleasing. So even the activity of making one's environment pleasing or so that it provokes a certain amount of calm or I don't know, or even excitement, that is also art. So I think art maybe has a place in every level of the pyramid, you know. So I don't know, that's my response. Yeah.
Yeah, I can actually totally following you with this. There's also a link to the performance art. I recently read a philosopher. He's called Richard Schusterman, and he wrote about Soma aesthetics. And it's like Soma, like body and mind together as an aesthetic experience. So you can have an actually aesthetic experience in your Soma, in your body-mind connection during dancing. And that's your own experience. You can't actually share it in a way you experience it, the aesthetic feeling. And it's quite, and he makes it like a theory about this new art form, because it's not formulated as an official art form. And that's quite interesting, because he says it that the fundamental aesthetic experience you have starts in your body. And people forget about this. Yeah, I can really recommend him.
I can suggest a
Maybe
book.
I write it in the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wolfgang, I could suggest a book to you. It's called Art as Experience. It's amazing and it's really old. Have you heard about it?
No, I didn't heard about it.
Might be interesting for you to read.
I have another question here, and I think it connects a little bit. It says, how could isolation be possibly seen as a chance or an inspiration? Maybe it is that we all experience more art and like realize and consciously kind of experience, oh wait, this is also art, or this experience is art. And I know, Wolfgang, you also mentioned with your balloon water freezer, like eggs, and how that came out of boredom, which like, you know, in normal life, we're so busy that never is a source of inspiration. So do you think that this isolation for you has maybe been, like, I guess for all of you guys, has maybe been a chance on inspiration, or?
For me, no, definitely not. Because I noticed that I find my inspiration in connections with people and outside, in bars, clubs, festivals, and all this kind. At home, I do the next Netflix binge or something. So I totally procrastinating. So I wait for inspiration and for the impulse to do something, and I don't get it out of isolation. I hope when everything's open again, that there's this whole the boost that's all saved in me comes out with once, maybe. I hope that will happen. So then I'm not very creative at the moment, unfortunately. So when you guys, I feel very glad for you that you have the chance to and the time to do your stuff right now and draw and do stuff and more than usual. It's quite cool. Yeah.
Wolfgang talks about the impulse for doing art, and for me, I get this impulse when, as I said, I'm, for example, very stressful or anxious. Also, I think it's when I have like strong emotions. Also, when I'm very happy or very I'm looking forward for something, but it's like always a little bit with like stress or enthusiasm. And yeah, that's, I have a lot of urge to do art like in these situations.
That's a little bit off topic of the art. But I also kind of, I mean, art does, like, you say like, oh, art imitates life or life imitates art. I also think it's very interesting. My mom's a psychologist, so I kind of also grew up in this world of psychology, and I think it's very interesting because like what you should do if you're kind of maybe depressed or something, or in a depression, one of the first things you really have to do is to stop isolating and to get out and connect and build upon other things with other people. So yeah, I think it's very interesting. And also, kind of maybe it poses a question, what can we do to connect in the times of a lockdown, and how can we help each other, and maybe also creatively, if one kind of act of art or artistic inspiration, then it connects to maybe the next piece of art and kind of just keeps going and building upon each other. Like, what is something that you think one could really do to kind of get going, so to say?
I'll briefly explain how the lockdown period was for me. I was lucky enough to not have to spend a lot of time alone during the lockdown because I happen to have two roommates who are in like similar, but of more or less the same age, and and of the same, I don't know, like interests. We definitely cook dinner together almost every single night and things like that. So even before the lockdown started, we were already in the habit of sharing things on, like, I don't know, every day or every other day. And one of the things we would sometimes do was to actually, maybe not all of us, but at least a couple of us would sit down and just draw together. I mean, I was always drawing, but my roommate, for example, was not so much into it. But then, but she would get into it just because I was sitting in the living room and drawing, for example, and we would end up drawing together. And now she actually does it more than she used to. And I think, I don't know, just I mean, there are so many activities that are a lot more enjoyable when you do together, but you don't think of drawing together as one of those activities. But I think I don't know. This is something I've been wanting to do, but I'm not able to right now because of the restrictions on like the number of people you can have at your house and things. But to actually invite people to make art together, as in not work on one piece of art together, but sit together and do it together, but make separate pieces of art, because I do believe that when you're doing something as a group, there's a certain energy in that space that makes you create in a certain way, which is different from when you're in isolation by yourself. And I think it's also a good way to sort of bring out that creative part of people who maybe otherwise don't create at all, or other people who don't draw or make music or any of these things, because I don't know, because they haven't done it until now, but that doesn't mean that they wouldn't like to or it wouldn't benefit them. So I think participating or like doing it together and bringing people together to create art is a great way to get more people to do it, for their benefit and for all of our benefit.
Yeah, and that's very common in art therapy. You mentioned, Yasmin, the psychological aspect. So there it's really common to be together and draw. Actually, for New Year's Eve, I met my friend who is studying art therapy. And at the end, we put out paints and just drawing without thinking so much. And to me, it reminds me also a bit of art school, because there you have also, you have to share a studio, and somehow I always like to do it on my own for being in a safe space. But the more I'm confident with what I'm doing, the more I experience also that it can be really inspiring to draw together with other people and not taking it so serious. I really enjoyed that. So I like your idea. Please share it when you do that. So drawing circle, I think it's very healing.
I know there's already been some like book recommendations or the philosophy author, I guess. So, yeah, so maybe philosopher, yes. Thank you. Richard Schusterman, that was it. Soma Aesthetic. Do you guys like have other, maybe something that you've read or watched, or kind of something that gave you inspiration? Because maybe we can then share it, and I don't know, just if something comes to mind, someone you have recently read or watched, or where you're like, wow, that's very interesting. But I don't know, it just kind of came in my head because yeah, if there's any recommendations.
Well, I shared in the chat also John Dewey. He's not contemporary, but for me, especially this book, Art as Experience, for me is still really interesting, even though it's nearly 100 years old. So he was a philosopher and also a psychologist, which is very interesting, and also worked with education and was very much about aesthetics and art. That's my last book. I would appreciate more recommendations also.
I would recommend if you like, because we talked a little bit about art not being permanent, and for that I have a painter an artist that I really like. His name is Popa, P-O-P-A, and he does a lot of art, a lot of street art, and a lot of art. For example, painting the mountains with a paint that washes away. So it's every artwork. It's not permanent. It stays there just for a little bit of time, and then the nature does its work and it goes away. It's very beautiful.
Would you mind to share the name and the... Ah, yeah, here, thank you.
I guess I could also make a recommendation. I saw it was a series. It's actually like a couple years old. It's by a British artist, Grayson Perry, and he kind of talked about the idea of art and class. I think someone had mentioned during the call, which is why I remembered him, this idea of, is art elitist? No, obviously not. But I think it was very interesting because he actually went to he's in Britain, and Britain is very still hierarchical. Yeah. So there's a lot of class structure still, and very defined class structure. And he went to lower class, middle class, upper class, and kind of looked at what are their tastes, what is considered good art or bad art. Yeah, I can share the full name in the chat. It was very interesting. Are there any other maybe topics or something that you wanted to discuss or that came up for you? Or...
I have one like little thing to say about something that Karen mentioned about the mushroom ink. Um, I think yeah, the fact that yeah, you draw it and then it disappears soon after you've drawn it. I think that's actually an incredibly beautiful phenomenon almost. And I think at least for me, it's like a reminder of the transience of everything and how impermanent everything is and how impermanent we are. And the moment you think about that, or every moment, every now and then that you think of how impermanent we are and how small our lives are, I don't know. These things sound a bit cliched, but you know what I mean. But I think realizing this kind of takes the weight of everyday things off our shoulders. Just realizing that, I don't know, things like how short our lives actually are, and how small and insignificant we are in the earth or in the universe, or however you want to see it. Not that we should use this as a defense for being irresponsible or something, because you can also go in that direction. But I think I don't know, this realization of our impermanence is reflected in that certain ink that you use. So I was very happy to just hear that and remember that again today. Yeah. So thank you.
We actually also got another comment. The comment is, we live in a time of crisis, all part of a crisis of perception, practices, and values. According to F. Cabra, in the web of life, how do you see art supporting a shift?
I guess art, as we see it, understand it right now, is part of this crisis, as it is now. I think, like this hyper capitalistic art market. I don't know. So maybe it can part of a shift for something better when we go back to the roots of it. Maybe that's yeah, the roots of this artsy experience everybody has. I would claim, just maybe it's, I don't know. But this narcissistic, egocentric, capitalistic art thing we have now is part of the crisis.
What I noticed, which I think is very interesting, and you, Sujana, said it now again with the transient and how we've talked about it so much. I think it's very interesting because it's really something you cannot sell, right? So it's just there and then it's gone, and you can't really, like, it's not to exist to make money. And I think it's very interesting because I feel like you guys as a group, almost, to me at least, it seems like, wow, you're all going into really leaning into the whole impermanency and just it being there and then it's gone, and that's the whole purpose and there's no other motive. So I think it's very interesting because I do agree. I think it's like this reaction, maybe almost.
To answer the question that came in the comments, I think at least for me personally, I find I've also spent the last year kind of doing a bit more of like meditation and things that are more meditative and mindful, and kind of trying to incorporate that more in my daily life. And I think art, and also my own art for myself, also had a role to play in this meditative process. And I think I mean, right now we're hearing more and more about like spiritual practices, or I don't know, and things like meditation and doing yoga, for example. These things have, I think we're hearing more about this now in the last 10 years or so, much more than like maybe in our parents' generation, for example. I think because we're all at least in the supposed first world countries, we're looking for I don't know, a new perspective on life, and I don't know, things like that. And I think art should be, or I don't want to say should be, I'm not imposing this on anyone, of course, but I do think that art has a potential to encourage more such meditation and mindfulness. And I don't mean meditation as in sitting down and meditating, but meditation as a way of being, and as a way of acting, and as a way of thinking. And then it starts to play a role in like critical reflections on our, what do you say, almost scientific acts. Art is not separate from scientific progress, I think. And if you think of science as having kind of pulled us to this very advanced position we hold on the planet, art can enable us to reflect on that, and teach us maybe where to direct this progress in the coming decades. So I don't know. I think it's I'm finding it hard to put this into words, but but yeah, I think there's a lot about reflection in what I'm trying to say, and art is very closely related to that reflection, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. Do you guys have any other comments or something you want to really say? Because I think we would end the YouTube stream after the last comment.
So yeah, from me, it was really a lot of input the last 30 minutes. So I can put everything in my head. I need to change that to let this come down. And I found it interesting. After a little bit of time, maybe we can make it again to look what happened with that, and maybe yeah. So for me, it was really nice, and I'm really thankful that I meet you on this way.
Yeah, thank you for this. It was nice for me to, first time that I had such a meeting. Quite cool.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, it was also very nice for me. And also about this question, what could we do in times of quarantine and everything to feel better? I think, for example, this initiative was like an example of something that we can do. It was really interesting for me to hear you all and hear different perspectives. Yeah, it was really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm very glad I met you all, and yeah, very thankful.
Yeah, me too. I jumped in very spontaneously, but I'm really happy I did it. I'm glad I did it because it's amazing to meet you all on this way. It would be amazing to see you again and then see your works too one day.
Yeah, this was also very spontaneous for me. I heard about this from Mathilde literally 3 hours before the call, I think, and I was yeah, I'm actually very happy that I was able that I had the time to join in with little notice. So and I hope something like this happens again soon. Such a conversation, yeah. So thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you all guys so much for participating. I learned a lot. I think it's very interesting, and I definitely hope that maybe we can actually also see each other in real life at the exhibition. We'll let you know when that's happening. And I think you can, I think if we end the YouTube stream, you could still, if you wanted to, stay on the Zoom call a little bit, and then we'll end the Zoom call too. So I guess this is goodbye. Also, yeah, thanks for people that watched and asked questions. Very interesting. Yes.